Hi there, welcome to Cooking with Roy. Today we're going to make some vegan chicken dressing, and it's going to taste like dressing you would have at Thanksgiving, but it's going to be a vegan recipe. So to start, we're going to add some diced onion, and this is just a small onion. It's about a cup of onion, I guess, just finely chopped onion. Let's see, we got one of the roots, and then we get that out. And if you don't like onions, then just leave the onion out. Or if you don't have onions, you can use some minced onion and just rehydrate it in some water for about 30 minutes. Drain the water off of it and you'll have your onions. Or you can use onion powder as a seasoning if you don't, when we add our spices in later. And the next thing we're going to add is going to be some diced celery. And this is 2 stalks. One stalk was an outside stalk and the other was an inside stalk. In this area here, these are the leaves that were on that stalk. It gives you 2 different flavors when you do celery this way. So anytime that I'm doing a soup or a stew or something where I'm adding celery and I want to have an aromatic as well, or something that's going to have a hearty flavor to it, I always add some of the celery leaves. It just gives it a different kind of a flavor. It kind of makes the flavor stand out a little bit, and since we're not using chicken in this, the celery is really going to help it add to the imitation chicken broth that we're going to be using in just a moment. And now this is cornbread that I made yesterday, and the good thing about cornbread is that it will last. You can freeze it if you want to and use it for these recipes later on. So if you ever have any extra, you can just wrap it and put it in the freezer. But this, I'm just using, it's what I had made yesterday. I'm just going to kind of crumble it in real quick into the mixture here. You may want to use your hands for this. If you don't want to use your hands, you can break it down with a spatula or a fork or a mixer, whatever that you want to use. But I always like to use my hands and just kind of mix it in. And I did wash them before I started. And this just kind of helps you to get everything kind of mixed together just a little bit before we start adding some seasonings into it. And also I am linking a video, if you don't know how to make cornbread, I'm linking a video on how to do that to this video as well at the end. And this is not a full pun of cornbread. This is about a pound of cornbread, which is about 16 ounces. In the South, you'll hear people talk about a pun of cornbread. A pun of cornbread in the South is an entire pan. A cast iron skillet usually is what it's referred to. So just want to clarify, this was about a pound of cornbread that's already cooked. So now we're ready to add some of our spices. So to start with, I'm going to add about a good tablespoon of sage. And I'm just kind of eyeballing this, okay? So the ground sage is, or rub sage, whichever one it is that you want to use, is kind of what I'm going to use here. I always like for these to be either ground, or I don't like to use the whole seasonings for this because it's just makes the texture a little different. And then we're going to add just some poultry seasoning, and I'm going to add about a half a tablespoon or so of that. And poultry seasoning is just going to be your thyme, and it has a little oregano in it, and sage that's just mixed together. And then I'm also going to add a little ground thyme as well, just to give us a little extra flavor, about a teaspoonful of that. And then we're going to add some kosher salt. So I'm just going to add a little teaspoon or so of kosher salt. And next is going to be black pepper. And I'm going to add about a good teaspoon or so of black pepper as well to this mixture. Now we're going to just want to mix all this together and get all our seasonings incorporated all the way through while we still have our dry mix here. Make sure that everybody is able to come to the party. Just want to mix it around a little bit, and if you don't, you can use your hands to do this too if you want to, but I just thought I would use a spoon instead for this portion right here. And then we're fixing to get ready to add some of our broth to this. And you can do a couple things with this broth. If you don't have access to a store where you can get a vegan chicken broth or an imitation chicken bouillon for making broth or for seasoning with, you can make a vegetable broth. And my recommendation is just a couple cloves of garlic, an onion peels, the whole thing. You can just throw the whole thing in there, and a couple stalks of celery, and then add some thyme and a little bit of pepper and salt to it, and just let it cook for about an hour on the stove. Bring it to a boil, and then reduce the heat down where it's still just simmering, letting a slow boil, and let it cook for about an hour, and that'll give you a nice broth for this. And we're going to use about 4 cups, which is a quart. So that's what I'm fixing to add in just a second. So the broth that I'm using is the Spice Select. It's an instant imitation broth, chicken flavor, and you can use this without making it into a broth, or you can mix it in with water. For this, because we need a broth to go in it, I'm going to actually add it in. And if you want, you can add some butter at this time in with. I'm not going to add any butter to it. I don't feel it's necessary for this. But if you're someone who wants it, you don't mind the calories, and you want to add some butter, add some vegan butter at this point to your broth, and then pour it in when you get that ready. Okay, so this is what your bouillon is going to look like. If it doesn't steam the camera lens over, this is what your bouillon will look like whenever you have added it to your water. And this was 4 cups of water, so I'm just going to go ahead and add this in. And you definitely, this is hot broth, so you definitely do not want to put your hands in at this point and stir this together. I do not recommend that at all. It will not feel good for you. Trust me. I don't see anyone going to the hospital. So now you want to stir it together, and it is going to be quite soupy, and that is exactly what we want, because you want this to put the flavor in. So you want to oversaturate it a little bit. And next we're going to put this in a baking dish, and we're going to put it in our oven at 375 degrees. So let me grab the dish real quick, and we'll do that. And I forgot to add one ingredient, and it's kind of important ingredient because we want this to kind of meld together. We want to do about a half a teaspoon of baking powder. I'm going to go ahead and mix that in real quick. And with that half a teaspoon of baking powder, we're also going to add just a little bit of vinegar, so we have a binder. And vinegar is an excellent binder if you ever are making cakes, or you ever want to use it for something like a vegan meatloaf or something that you need to hold together. Vinegar is an excellent binder. So this is about 2 tablespoons of vinegar right here, and I'm using white vinegar for this, but you can use any kind of vinegar that you want to. You can use a rice wine vinegar, you can use balsamic vinegar, I wouldn't recommend maybe, but a red wine vinegar, or just a plain wine vinegar, white wine vinegar, apple cider vinegar, any kind that you want to use. There shouldn't be any issue with it, and you won't taste it because it will cook out in the oven as this cooks. So I'm just going to use a Pyrex dish and my squirt bottle. And this is where, if you're going to use any oil calories, this is where I use them at, is in making sure things don't stick to the pan. So coat this down real good with our oil. Everybody getting coated here. And you can use your hands to go up the sides if you need to. Just really just need a good barrier there so that we don't have to scrub this thing for hours before we put it in the dishwasher. Okay. So I just washed my hands, and now we're going to just add this in. And I recommend having a rubber spatula on hand. If you don't have any, you can buy them for around $1 at most any dollar store, or I think they're $1.25 at Dollar Tree. Right now with inflation, they're just a little bit higher. but they're not real expensive, and they will save your life when it comes to cleaning out the bottom of jars, or getting all the cake batter out, or whatever you need to do. Okay, so now we've got our dressing, stuffing, whatever you want to call it, is now in the pan, and we're going to stick this in a 375 degree oven to bake, and it's going to bake for about 45 to 50 minutes. And the way you check it is the same way you're going to check a cake, with a toothpick, and I'll show you that whenever I take it out of the oven. See you in a bit. So our dressing is now ready. It's just come out of the oven. It's really hot, and what you'll do is you'll just take a toothpick, and if you want to see if it's done, you want to go in the middle, just press it in, and then pull it out. And if it comes out clean, like this one right here has, then your dressing is ready. It's the same way you would test a cake if you're taking a cake out of an oven. That way, if it needs to go back in, if it's gummy or anything, then you can stick it back in for a bit, let it cook some more. Now I do want to get a taste of it, so I'm going to cut a piece here. Hopefully it'll just come out. You may have to give it a little help on the edges here. It looks great. So just give it a good taste here, and you see it's very hot. Just like Thanksgiving, it tastes so good. And I know this is the middle of the summer right now when I'm doing this video, but sometimes a hearty meal is something that you want to do, and today's one of those days when it hasn't been super duper hot. They're rare, so I thought I would throw this one together today and have a little something different for dinner. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, like and subscribe please, and I appreciate your support, and I welcome your comments below. So if you want to comment on the video, feel free to do so. And there's another attached here if you want to take another look, and this is for your cornbread that you'll need for this. So feel free to share that one, and I appreciate you watching. Have a great day.